Islam is the only faith, apart from Christianity, that regards Jesus Christ as the Son of the Virgin Mary, a prophet, and the Messiah who will return during the end times. Given the deep reverence Islam holds for Christ, one might assume that Christians would have a positive or, at the very least, a neutral perception of Islam. However, the curious reality is that most Christians harbor an intense and obsessive hatred towards Islam. Now, it cannot be denied that there are some profound theological differences between Islamic and Christian theology. For instance, Muslims deny the Trinity, the divinity of Jesus and his crucifixion. And for this reason, Christians argue that Islam is a false religion that diminishes the significance of Jesus. This claim forms the basis of their opposition to Islam. Their opposition manifests through alleged studies and mockeries of Islam, presented in the form of videos and articles designed to highlight alleged faults, imagined errors and supposed controversies within Islam. Examples of these include the works of Christian polemicists and self-professed experts like David Wood, Anthony Rogers, Fadi, J. Smith, Sam Shamoun and various others who have made careers out of attacking Islam. A neutral observer might ask a few questions. If their opposition to Islam is merely a reaction to Islam's rejection of traditional Christian beliefs, then how come the same Christians who are hostile towards Islam do not display a similar behavior towards other organized religions that also hold conflicting views about Jesus in comparison to Christianity? Why don't they go after Christian Unitarians and Jehovah's Witnesses, who, despite using the New Testament, have concluded that the Trinity is a lie and that Jesus was not divine but a created being? Why don't these warriors of Christ address Judaism, a religion that not only rejects the Trinity and Jesus' divinity, but also regards Jesus as a false prophet and a sorcerer, and even accuse him of being a product of fornication? Why are they so silent about the numerous other faiths that completely disregard Jesus, as well as all the other prophets of the Bible? Their indifference towards these other religions indicates that their antagonism towards Islam has nothing to do with theology or even a compulsion to defend Christ. Rather, it stems from a spiritual disease that has sown all kinds of illogic and confusion inside their minds. The mindset behind their opposition to Islam mirror the motivations of the pagans who opposed Islam 1,400 years ago. These motivations include a profound aversion to the truth, grand delusions about the superiority of their beliefs and an attachment to their inherited traditions. They fixate on Islam because Islam is the only non-biblical religion in existence that directly refutes the blasphemous lies that Christianity teaches. The lie that Jesus, a man who was born of a woman and who needed to eat, sleep and use the toilet, was actually God in the flesh. And the utterly convoluted lie that Almighty God had to be born on earth in order to die a humiliating death at the hands of his own creations just so he could have a way to forgive sinners. Christian polemicists and the people who follow them cannot see the absurdity of their own beliefs, because Satan has blinded them and inflated them with empty pride over their patently false beliefs. They are thus unable to question their traditions and see how ridiculous they are, because doing so would amount to an admission of defeat, and can only be followed by an utter rejection of the traditions they inherited from their forefathers. Their singling out of Islam as the target of their vitriol also indicates they are not experiencing fulfillment and purpose within their own faith. Because instead of dedicating their lives to singing praises to Jesus or reading the gospel as normal, well-adjusted Christians do, they have made it their life's purpose to try and debunk, disprove or ridicule Islam. To them, being a Christian means to oppose Islam, and only Islam. When Christian polemicists debate Muslims or critique Islam, they only do so using bad faith arguments, fallacious reasoning and a variety of underhanded tactics. Some of them are as follows. 1. They conveniently presuppose that the Bible is correct by default and inherently true. They regard the Bible and their private interpretation of it as the gold standard of truth against which the Quran needs to be evaluated. This is fallacious reasoning because they assume the truth of their claims. In reality, the Bible, which their claims are based on, is open to multiple interpretations and is riddled with a multitude of issues, such as contradictions, mistakes, added texts and so on. 2. They routinely distort the verses of the Quran by quoting them out of context or presenting them in a negative light. At the same time, when it comes to the Bible, they stress the importance of context and demand it be read in the most positive way and in accordance with their interpretations. Their deliberate selectiveness when it comes to applying context and interpretation reveals a clear bias and agenda. 3. They apply inconsistent standards when evaluating issues present in both the Bible and the Quran. They dismiss or rationalize any problematic elements in the Bible, while simultaneously rejecting explanations offered by Muslims to clarify alleged issues of a similar nature. 4. They often project problems with Christianity and the Bible onto Islam and the Quran, in order to divert attention from the many issues plaguing Christianity and to keep Muslims on the defensive. 5. They employ vulgarities, insulting language, and attacks on the character of the Prophet, while also ridiculing the narrative of the Quran. 6. They conflate current events and political and societal issues like immigration, political unrest, and armed conflict with Islam, falsely implying that Islam is somehow directly responsible. In short, these polemicists are incapable of logical consistency and intellectual honesty, and have zero interest in listening to what Muslims have to say about topics pertaining to Islam. Their arguments consist of misrepresentations, distortions, deflections, and outright lies. They are motivated by nothing but a desire to undermine and mock Islam. These Christian polemicists are zealots who don't care about the truth. Their only focus is on winning arguments while reinforcing their own beliefs and illusions. They can be shown mountains of evidence that refute their claims, but they are so blinded by their egos, they are unable or unwilling to understand. All they want is to be right, even when they are clearly not. They have already formed their opinions on Islam and are simply unwilling to listen to the Muslim side of the debate, or even display basic decency when they do engage with Muslims. And it is for this reason that all their arguments should be dismissed as the ramblings of deranged lunatics, fanatics and internet trolls. But, as strange as it seems, Muslims ought to regard the unhinged behavior of these Christian polemicists as a blessing in disguise. I will explain what I mean by this, so please listen attentively for the next minute or so. First, let us be clear that the only real threat posed by Christian polemicists to Muslims, and other groups, lies in their potential to persuade people to question their faith and consequently, abandon it or convert to Christianity. In this regard, their success depends on the type of methods and tactics they use. It is a known fact that Christians have been more successful in converting Jews compared to Muslims. The key to their success with converting Jews lies in the extremely friendly approach they adopt when engaging with Jews. Using this strategy, Christians have achieved conversions among Jews even within Israel, the world's only Jewish state. So, it follows that if Christians were as friendly towards Muslims as they are towards Jews, it would potentially lower the guard of naive and less informed Muslims, which, in turn, would greatly increase the chances of their conversion to Christianity, or at least their abandonment of Islam. But since the Christian strategy in dealing with Muslims involves so much aggression and hostility, Muslims can only react by becoming defensive and going into a state of alertness. As a result, they are subconsciously driven to cling tightly to their faith and seek answers from authentic Islamic sources. The end result is that Muslims strengthen their commitment to their faith and become more knowledgeable about their own religion. Furthermore, the efforts of Christians in the age of the internet served as a wake-up call to Muslims, who were forced to adapt to the times. This in turn has led to the growth of numerous Muslim media platforms in the form of websites, articles, YouTube channels etc. that are dedicated to addressing and countering the claims put forward by Christian polemics. These resources have twofold benefits. First, they provide ordinary Muslims with the intellectual tools required to effectively counter the claims made by Christians and other groups hostile to Islam. Second, they provide an opportunity for sincere truth seekers of all backgrounds to objectively study and examine Islam in the way it was intended to be understood, and free of the biases imposed by Christian polemicists. Undoubtedly, this has led many Christians to recognize the absurdities within Christianity and embrace Islam. Thus, the adversaries of Islam have not only failed in their attempts to bring down the faith but have inadvertently stimulated the growth and development of Muslim media platforms, encouraged Muslims to deepen their understanding and dedication to Islam, and sparked a surge in conversions from Christianity to Islam. Talk about a plan backfiring. Let us now conclude by taking note of how truly pathetic the Christian polemicists are. They can see with their own eyes that Christianity is falling apart and rapidly losing its influence over the societies their ancestors built. They could have used their time, resources, creativity and energy to do something productive to preserve their faith or counter the growing tide of godlessness. Instead of working to expose the various godless, liberal, anti-Christian and satanic ideologies that have been consuming their societies, they choose to focus on Islam, a religion that for the most part, is in agreement with the Bible, and honors the prophets of the Bible, especially the central figure of Christianity, Jesus Christ. Other than fame, money and dopamine highs, what exactly have they gained with all their efforts to degrade Islam? What have they actually achieved with their videos, documentaries, articles, podcasts, websites, memes and various spectacles designed to mock Islam? Has Islam collapsed? Are mosques shutting down? Have Muslims stopped memorizing or reciting the Quran? Are devout lifelong Muslims converting to Christianity in droves? The answer to all these questions is no. The haters of Islam have achieved absolutely nothing of importance. In the larger scheme of things, they have not managed to put even a dent on Islam. They threw everything they had at Islam and still failed. In light of the larger propaganda war that is being carried out against Islam, the efforts of the Christian polemicists are as a drop in the bucket. Given how Islam has been targeted over the last several decades, it should have been extinguished in the West a long time ago. In reality, the opposite is true. Islam not only endures but also thrives, even within nations where the majority of the population identifies as Christians, and where Islam is generally despised. The Christian polemicists can only gape in awe and frustration as Islam continues to grow and grow, while their own faith dwindles away. Thus, the inescapable reality that the enemies of Islam need to cope with is that they have already failed, both here and in the hereafter.